Hey guys!
DFW's Cars here.
Cars here. How's it going? Today I'm here with a car that ever since I saw it at the auto show and hung out with the chipmunks a little bit, I've actually wanted to test out. Because it's such an interesting car, or different car I guess you'd say, I'm going to do this review a little bit differently in the beginning. Kind of Doug DeMuro style was the inspiration there. So without further ado, this is the 2017 Kia Soul. You can check out more information on this car in my column. Wait, I don't have a column, so just watch the video and you'll find out everything you need to know.
The biggest thing is this almost Tesla-like lack of a grille here and just almost this little face more than anything else, because all the cooling is done down here. That's definitely a love it or hate it kind of thing. It's kind of fun, funky. It looks like a little mustache or a weird smile.
We're at the front. These LED fog lights are an option, but I like the way they're sectioned off.
Some air diffusion going on up here, probably for aerodynamics. Surprisingly good MPG, as we'll talk about in the drive review. I don't know if maybe they are planning a sport model of this car because of this. With the 2-liter engine, that would be nice.
This just feels a little bit tacked on, at least in the Optima Kia put some fake venting on it.
Back here remind me of another car. I like how the Soul is body colored there. That's pretty cool. Most of the funky stuff is inside this car. Really the funkiest design element for a station wagon type hatchback like this guy is kind of this round here, and then of course that theme of the having more diffusers. I do like the dual tipped exhaust. Speaking of exhaust, let's grab that quickly before we get into some more quirks.
Inside, there are a few more quirky speakers. It looks like a hybrid between the Bang & Olufsen speakers that come out and almost like a flower pot down here. One thing about these flower pot speakers is that as cool as they look, based on the position, you can definitely hear the sound because it basically just comes right to your ear. Another one of those flowers. That's actually a nice feature, the stitch dash. But all the trim happen to match the outside color here, which is kind of like a reddish orange. Giant speaker hole there. There's no way that speaker is that big.
There's a little knob down here that says music or mood. So mood, when you set it, it just keeps perpetually changing the colors at nighttime, which this is a great car to drive around like a city at night with the moonroof open and this mood lighting on. Music is a little less impressive because it's just one color and it pulsates to the music you're playing. You can adjust the intensity of that. That's actually a neat feature. Funky round stop-start button here, and then almost looks like a manual shifter, but with this, the orange theme continuing up there and this interesting design on that guy. They switch out one of the regular slots. You can tell what it used to be for a USB slot in here. That is pretty cool. Also, the seats on this car have that fun star pattern in there. Got a little bit of bolstering, not a lot, but for the performance this car has, it's just fine. They're moderately comfortable as well. And then another funky design feature is this handle here. Kind of has that little oval shape. It's actually a switchless glove box here, so much like older Mercedes, it comes down, no handle on there. Of course, the panoramic sunroof going, all the way back for folks. It also kind of nice. It's got dual LEDs up there lighting. There's an option for room lighting up here, which just basically turns on all the lights in the entire car. But this car kind of does feel like you're just hanging out with some friends in a giant room because of how tall it is. So I kind of get what I think they were going for. These are the speakers, which look nice in the day. They look a lot. This is one of the lower end Harman Kardon systems. No surround sound option. The subwoofer is even a little weak on there, unless you turn it quite a bit up. But it looks really, really nice, and at night, of course, it looks even better. So in addition to USB and Apple CarPlay, which is really, really cool, there's a 120 watt and then also a nice tweak, a 180 watt power adapter. Would only be better if that had some traditional plugs, as some SUVs do, but nice it has for like a laptop. So pretty standard telematics down there. HD radio is nice. It actually sounds a lot better than the Sirius XM, which has that kind of tunneling effect. Some Sirius systems are great, especially the Honda ones, but yeah, some just have a almost like tinny tunnel effect, compression effect. In back, there's a little bit less to show you guys. You would expect, since it's a wagon, a pretty decent room back here. Elements from the front continue. Unfortunately, the light-up speakers did not make it back here, even though that's in a fairly pricey option package. Would have liked to have seen, you know, that, but the everything else does. Kind of the only funky element from back here is this light here. I like the design and the way it's recessed and angled, the LED there, so that's pretty cool. Going through the interior just in a regular sense, Kia doesn't call this a flat bottom steering wheel. They actually call it a D steering wheel, which when it's turned like that, I get. I'm glad it has that though, and the orange stitching on there looks really nice. Really good steering in this car. We'll talk about more in the drive review for an electric system and for a car in this class. Like the minimalistic look of the gauges there, they're continuing that oval theme. The plastic materials up there for its price point aren't too terrible, kind of just basic. I do like this little pod up here. It looks like on a performance car, these would be where the gauges are, so they just stuck the climate control in that little storage space in the back here. It's not a power lift gate, but it is very nicely hinged for you. There is this area here to hide your things without the seats folded down. It's not huge, it's not like SUV big, maybe a small SUV. Seats folded down, you definitely, you know, have a fair amount of storage area, more so than you'd have in a car, because when you take this guy out, you actually could fit like a TV back here. I think this is really an alternative to like an SUV. What I like is there's a drive mode button that just puts it right into sport. There's not even eco, there's not a comfort, it's regular, which is pretty efficient, and sport. So I'm gonna take a few turns up here and just see how she does. The acceleration is surprisingly brisk. The guy who dropped it off said, when we were talking about the car a little bit, was surprised how, you know, brisk the acceleration on such a, you know, big car was. The tires hold very well. They're actually fairly wide. These rims are nice. It does show that the brakes are a little small, which we'll talk about in the drive review. Also, it's a Korean tire company called Nexen, and I have no doubt that in a few years they'll be making incredible tires. But on other Kia Hyundai products, they'll put Michelins and stuff like that. Those tires are a little bit better. You already have this car and you are replacing the OEM tires. There are better tires in the same price point out there. You can ask in the comments if you wanted some suggestions. I won't go bore everyone with that now. The steering actually, especially in sport mode, turns in surprisingly fast. There is understeer. Of course, front wheel drive, there is actually torque steer in sport mode if you gun it hard enough. The biggest, and the tires and steering are great. The biggest letdown here has to be the suspension. It's so much so that there's actually a rollover risk notice. Granted, it does go extremely high up here. I'm just under 6 feet. You know, someone 7 feet could actually fit in this car quite well. Maybe that's a huge demographic for them. Assistant's here with me because we were just filming the outside. So what do you think of the soul so far?
It's soulful.
The engine does have a little bit of soul. The Elantra engine, the non-turbo one, is very just kind of like appliance-like. This one, if you put it in sport mode, it does have the dual clutch transmission, which is pretty cool. I believe it's a 7-speed on here. It actually does have a little bit of life to it. So more than I thought it would, between the steering and all the fun quirks I showed you earlier. It is kind of a fun little car. So mission accomplished. Got a little torque steer there. Mission accomplished there. Even though this has the 1.6 liter, once that turbo kicks in, it's not bad.
How many horsepower does it have? How many hamster power does it have?
And do the turbos make the hamster wheel go faster?
Don't know.
Consider the soul of the car. Inline 4-cylinder turbocharged engine. I like how low it is set. A sign of that is how the air cooling is down here, and then much like Tesla's we just talked about in the quirks part, it basically doesn't have like a traditional grill as you would expect. So I prefer like maybe a 2-liter option, maybe like a sport model of this car, tighter suspension. So let me kind of walk you through it. The GoPro is charging now. Sorry I won't have any views of the road. It's not that interesting a road. It's not like the Smoking Tire where he's on these, you know, fun Southern California roads. One fun thing, when you put it in sport mode, the gauges change. The gauge in normal, engage sport mode, and you get this, which is pretty cool. Wow, a little bit of torque steer there. They have done a good job from a standstill minimizing the torque steer, but like I said, you do get the tire kind of roll down there. No paddle shifters as well. If they did release a sport model of this car, that would be a really nice touch. You just have to shift down here. With the dual clutch though, it's pretty good at getting the right gear. See the pickup? I don't know if you heard that, got a little wheel spin there. It's kind of impressive, fun. So yeah, let me hustle it through some turns. Yeah, it definitely, I see why there's that rollover warning I mentioned earlier. Now tires grab, but the suspension just has so much play, and if it had a really comfy ride, I would be a little bit more okay with that, but the ride is just kind of average beans. Yeah, I don't. Here's a turn. You can toss it, but you can tell the car has a lot of weight. It has a lot of gap in between the wheels, which is nice. It gives you kind of almost like that SUV ride height, but for the most part, it's not so great. As for the brakes, can't really complain. They could be a little bit grippier. Last thing I will say about this car, just very quickly, is the dual clutch transmission. I like it because I'm actually used to them. I've had it in my BMW years ago when it was actually a very lurchy system, but it was so fast back then compared to other automatics, and to some degree even compared to manuals. And if you're not used to it, just between first and second gear in town, you feel a little lurch. For the performance benefits, it's worth it, but just know that going into this car, the car isn't broken. There's a dog on the loose up here. I have to make sure I don't hit it. Ah, there's the owner. I just don't want it popping out from behind this. I'm gonna manually shift. So you gotta take advantage of that dual clutch that I was ranting about so much. Interesting fact, even though it is a dual clutch, which implies sportiness, even in manual mode and sport, it will upshift for you. This is the 2.7. This is the 2.7. This. It's DFW's cars here. Until next time, my speedy racers, drive on.